place, and I'll be able to fill you in. So, and again, my name is Catherine. I'm joining you from Dublin. I'm so excited that you're with us today. I know it's not easy to take time out of your day, so we're really grateful that you decided to find a bit more about the Camino. Let's see. Okay, great. So just our agenda today. So I'll talk a little bit about who we are as Follow the Camino and what we do, and then a bit of history about the Camino, and then talk about the Holy Year in general, and then the best routes for 2021 that you might be interested in walking, since it is going to be such a big, special year. Great. So who we are, we Follow the Camino is an Irish company. We're based in Dublin, Ireland. We were established in 2006. So we've been in business for quite some time now. We've been able to build an incredible network of hotels and service providers over the years, and I've really been able to explore routes on the Camino. So it's been a lot of fun. We're a multilingual team. I'm, as you can probably tell, American, but we work with Spanish speakers. We have Lithuanian on our team, German, French. We're from all over. So it's a lot of fun. And each of us are super passionate about Camino and walking and cycling in general. I know I try to go out at least to myself. So as soon as we can kind of explore more freely, I'll be out myself as well. And we, like yourselves, have clients all over the world and have been able to get a 97% customer satisfaction rating. So we're very proud of that and are loving able to help all of you get on the Camino and out walking in general. Yes, it's a bit of who we are. Perfect. Okay, forgive me, my slides seem to be a bit slow today. So in general, what we do all the Camino is we help you walk your Camino your way. So we build custom itineraries that are completely flexible based on your needs, and we can really tailor them to your interests, your preferences. So if you want to walk super long days and you're really motivated, we can do that for you. Or if you're wanting to just walk a couple miles each day and kind of just see the sights, we can build an itinerary for you as well. So beginning of the journey, essentially you get paired with a Camino consultant, someone like myself, who will work with you to build the best personal itinerary for you. And then once that's all finalized, we'll then hand you our reservations team, who will choose your accommodation and secure your reservations for you, so that while you're out in business for so long now that we've been able to do ships with. And then from there, one of the other services that we offer, I'm just going to see if my audio is getting a bit better. Let's see. So one of the other services that we offer is luggage transfer. So what you can do then is just carry a day pack while you're out walking, and then your luggage can get moved on to the next hotel each day. So you don't need to worry about packing or not packing those extra shoes, or maybe that particular outfit for an evening night out. You can just bring it all, and then we'll move the rest of it for you to your hotel. Okay. And additionally, we really pride ourselves on the customer service that we're able to provide to you all. We really pride ourselves on customer support. So that's a big part of what we do, that we offer a 24/7 phone number for you, so that while you're out walking, if it starts to rain and you're like, I've had it, I'm done for the day, you can call us and we can help get a taxi out to you. So we really are there for you from the beginning all the way to the end of the journey. So just jumping into a bit of history on the Camino. So as you'll likely know, the Camino is one of the 3 main pilgrimage routes for Christians that have been walked for centuries. So the Camino specifically's end goal is to reach the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, where the body of St. James the Apostle is buried in the crypt there. So St. James, if you don't know, or maybe you do, is the patron saint of pilgrims and Spain. His memorial day or feast day is July 25th. So we've just had that there, and for anyone who maybe have joined us, we did a big walk through Dublin to celebrate. So July 25th is his feast day. He died in 844 AD, and was executed by beheading. Not great, but while after he was executed, so according to legend, his body, along with his followers, sailed the Iberian Peninsula on a rudderless ship with no sail. So landing on the northwest coast of the peninsula, they proceeded up the river Uya to land in modern-day Padron, which is just outside of Santiago. Um, and it was there that the Celtic queen Lupia, she ruled the lands at the time. And when she was asked by James's followers if they could bury his body there, she refused and sent troops after them. But while chasing the followers of James with his body across a bridge, it collapsed and killed all of her troops. So after this event, Queen Lupia then converted to Christianity and provided an ox and a cart for the followers of James to transport the body. So unsure of where they should bury the sacred remains, his followers prayed on this and decided to let the ox continue until it chose a place to rest. And after pausing at a stream, the ox finally came to rest under an oak tree at the top of the hill, and that's where the Cathedral of Santiago stands today. So it's a nice story, and you'll kind of see elements of that story while you're out walking. And it's nice to know that that's the significance of where the cathedral is, as well as St. James himself and why people are kind of pilgrimaging to this exact spot. Okay. So the pilgrimage, after Rome and Jerusalem, as I said, this is the third most popular pilgrimage. And it had a real boom during the Middle Ages when it was very popular, with hundreds of thousands of people making this pilgrimage every year. During the 16th century, there was a major decline in the popularity of the Camino, just due to the Reformation, and the route was no longer safe to follow due to the French Wars of Religion and the Anglo-Spanish War. However, in the 20th century and now into the 21st century, this route was rediscovered and is now constantly gaining in popularity. So a growing number of pilgrims reach Santiago each year, and in 2019, there are almost 350,000 people received a Compostela. So you're one of many excellent people who are going to be reaching Santiago, hopefully, if that's where you'd like to finish your Camino. And following in, which is what's so cool about it, just so many years of history of people walking these same routes. And while you're in Santiago, I would definitely highly recommend a visit to the Pilgrim Museum there. They have history and artifacts from not only the Camino pilgrimage, but pilgrimages from elsewhere around the world. And it's an excellent experience, and you actually get a discounted entry. I think it's only about €1 with your pilgrim passport. So always something to visit if you are in Santiago. So while you are walking, some of the symbols of the Camino that you're going to see are the stick, the gourd, and the scallop shell, which is one maybe you're most familiar with. But so the stick, the pilgrims throughout history recognized by wooden sticks that they would carry to kind of help relieve the impact of walking on your knees and your hips and your joints. So nowadays, the traditional wooden stick has been replaced by all of our modern kind of walking poles and modern walking technology. But some pilgrims do still carry a traditional walking staff that you'll see, and in a lot of pilgrim imagery, you'll see pilgrims carrying that wooden stick walking with them. Along with the wooden stick, you might also see the gourd. So in the past, pilgrims used a gourd to carry water and attached it to their wooden stick. So it was a light, practical, and very cheap way to stay hydrated along the way. So even though today we might have fancy backpacks that carry water with us with the little fancy hose thing, people still will display gourds or kind of use them symbolically in pilgrim imagery and for the Camino as well. And then finally, the most famous symbol is the scallop shell. So the scallop shell is native to Galicia and has become the most well-known symbol of the Camino de Santiago. It most likely was collected by pilgrims from the coast of Finisterre, which is just beyond Santiago and was believed to be the end of the world. So the scallop shell was used as proof of walking and completing the Camino. And there's evidence of pilgrimages to Santiago all over Europe. So you might even see them engraved on coffins or tombs, and numerous engravings have been found on tombs and monuments in churches around Ireland that kind of demonstrate that historic link between Ireland and Santiago. So while you're out walking the Camino, you're definitely going to see the scallop shell, and pilgrims today will kind of carry that scallop shell with them as a marker, showing that they're on the pilgrimage, they're on the Camino, and that's how you'll be able to identify them. And then the imagery will just kind of be everywhere. You see it as markers on the path to show you which way to go. So you'll definitely be seeing that one often. So a little about the Camino today. So as I said, Santiago would be the end destination to the cathedral there, but there are 9 major routes to reach it. The Camino Frances, which would be this route here in yellow, so that route would be the most famous because most pilgrims coming from the rest of Europe would have been funneled across the Pyrenees at that one point there at Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and then they would have crossed Spain via that route into Santiago. So just because it happened to be the most frequently walked, it's the most well known then to the rest of the world. But you would have had pilgrims coming from Lisbon in Portugal, or English and Irish pilgrims coming across and beginning their journey in Ferrol and walking the English way of the Camino Inglés into the city. So while the French way is still the most popular, most frequently walked, with about 60% of pilgrims walking this route, you have these other routes that are great to explore, particularly for this year, the Holy Year 2021, if you're looking for something a little bit quieter. But we will go into that later in the presentation. So yes, as I mentioned again, about 350,000 pilgrims reached Santiago in 2019. So it's going to be even more exciting in 2021. So just going into what the Holy Year is. So 2021 is going to be a huge year for the Camino. There's going to be a plethora of events, extra church services, and thousands more people flocking to the pilgrimage trails than in a normal year. So 2021 is, as I said, a holy year. It's a Jacobean year, or the Holy Year of Compostela. And this is because it is when St. James's Day falls on a Sunday. So July 25th. Every time that falls on a Sunday, you have a holy year. So this happens every 6, 5, 6, and 11 years. So while 2021 is the next holy year, it won't happen again until 2027, and then not again until 2032 and 2038, and so on. So for those who are walking the Camino with spirituality or religion in mind, if that's kind of the reason why you're walking, this could hold a particularly greater significance for you walking in 2021. The Holy Year technically begins on December 31st with the opening of the Holy Door at the cathedral in Santiago, which is located in Quintana Square, the famous big square that you'll know where the cathedral is. So this opening of the door is attended by thousands of people, and the Archbishop of Santiago knocks the wall that covers the Holy Door with a silver hammer. The wall is then fully knocked down and removed to allow pilgrims to enter. Once the door is open, it will be available for pilgrims to enter for just 1 year before being walled and closed again. So when it's not open for the Holy Year, the door is protected with metal bars, and it's a really beautiful door. It's carved with really intricate images of St. James with his disciples standing over the door, and then other kind of smaller figures. So it's a big deal to be able to enter into the cathedral through this door every Holy Year. And it's a big deal as well if you are coming for religious reasons, because entering through the door allows you to receive plenary indulgence, so the removal of all of one's kind of punishment and suffering. So walking through the Holy Door in Santiago to the Apostles' Tomb, you can then seek forgiveness for your sins, and so kind of adds to the weight of the experience if that's why you'll be walking. So the kind of the way that you would go about this, the ritual that pilgrims would undertake who are looking to achieve this, is first by visiting the cathedral. So you'd visit the cathedral and the tomb of St. James, and you'll enter through the Holy Door. So then you would say a prayer there, and would say typically the Apostles' Creed, the Our Father, and a prayer for the intentions of the Pope, as well as attend a pilgrim's mass. And the Camino Society website has the Pilgrim's Mass times. They're typically twice a day. So there's lots of opportunity to see them while you're there. So after having attended a mass, you'd confess and take Holy Communion. So go to confession and take communion within the 15 days before or after your visit to the cathedral. So you've got some kind of wiggle room there, because 2021 will be particularly busy with lots of people looking to do the same thing. So definitely allow yourself some extra time if this is one of the things you'd like to do when you finish your Camino. So a little bit about how to go about picking out a route for 2021. And so in general, even for any Camino, but particularly for 2021, the best way to kind of decide what route you'd like to walk is by looking inward first and asking yourself a few questions, doing a bit of self-reflection. Because the big question you're going to want to answer for yourself is, are you looking for a more social experience or a more solitary experience? Because the Holy Year is such a big deal for pilgrims and for lots of people who are passionate about the Camino, maybe you want to use it as an opportunity for some solitude and spend some time with yourself, particularly as we've maybe all been home with people in one household for many months now, so you might want some time alone, which is perfectly okay. Or if you had a more solitary experience these past couple of months, you might really want that very buzzy, very social experience of, say, the Camino Frances, with lots of other pilgrims to talk to and get to hear their stories and their experiences. So that's a big question to answer for yourself. If you're anything like me, I know that I would be a more solitary walker some of the time, so it's important that I get that time to myself. So to have the experience that you want, this is a big question to look into. And for those social walkers, it can be really helpful as well to join one of our guided tours if you'd like the structure of a group. You join the group at the beginning of the week, and then you finish with them at the end, and there's just great camaraderie that develops through the week. So the next question, after kind of what is the social or solitary experience you'd like to have while walking, is, do you want to reach Santiago? So if you're walking during the Holy Year, but Santiago doesn't seem like a priority at all, it's more about the experience of the Camino. Maybe you don't need to reach Santiago, and there's lots of other sections that are really, really great that you could be walking. Or maybe this is the highlight of the year for you, and you'd like to reach the cathedral and enter through the Holy Door rather than wait another 6 years. So that will be the second big question you'll want to kind of answer for yourself or for others that you're walking with, where you'd like to end your journey. What we've done at Follow the Camino as well is that we've divided each of the routes into kind of helpful, just about 1 week long sections with a convenient start and finish point, so that you can enter easily and exit easily if you just wanted to do about a week of walking, which would be a really ideal kind of amount because you can kind of get into the flow. But as I said, we can customize any route. So if you're just doing a couple of days, we can absolutely help you with that as well. And then the other big thing kind of going into it there would be, how much time do you have? So if you're walking self-guided, we can really customize it to if you have 1 week or you have 1 whole month. So if you have the time, being able to do a long stretch is an amazing experience that I highly recommend. But as I said, at least 1 week is a really great kind of chunk of Camino, like a little mini one that you can do where you're getting the full experience and getting that Camino experience and hopefully getting to reach Santiago if that's where you'd like to end up as well. And then finally, what is your fitness level? So on average, a normal walking day on the Camino would be about 12 to 15 miles or about 20 to 25 kilometers. So that kind of allows you to finish your day in slightly bigger towns with a few more options for accommodation and services and amenities for pilgrims, rather than finishing in a very, very tiny area without much around. So if you finish quickly, there's not a whole lot to do besides bring your book, which is always good to have with you. But if you are looking for shorter days, we can definitely customize that for you, and the more populated routes, the more frequently walked, would have options for slightly shorter days, particularly as you reach Santiago. So we can definitely customize that for you. And there is a route out there for everyone, regardless of fitness level. So that would be another one to take into consideration while you're planning your trip. So just going now into kind of after you've done a bit of self-reflection, how would you then apply the answers to these questions to your Camino and choosing the route? So since 2021 is going to be the Holy Year, and Santiago is going to be the kind of prime destination for everyone, most people are going to want to reach Santiago, and in doing so, you might want to walk the last 100 kilometers into the city. This is what qualifies you for your Compostela certificate. So in order to get that, what you'll do is we'll send you, or you can acquire, a pilgrim passport, and you'll get 2 stamps per day while you're walking. And then at the end in Santiago, you'll take that to the pilgrim's office. and you'll get your Compostela certificate there. So it's in Latin, and it's a lovely thing to bring home and kind of say, I've done it, hang it on your fridge and show everyone that comes over. So for a lot of people, that's going to be the goal, especially this year as a Holy Year. So these you'll see on the screen have kind of been arranged from easier to harder. So the Camino Frances, being the most populated and most accessible for all fitness levels, is also going to be the most social route, and a good place to start if this is your first experience. And then from there, as you kind of work outwards, mainly in popularity, it gets a bit quieter and a bit harder, finishing with the Camino Inglés, which will just have slightly more challenging terrain, and be a much more remote route that's really good for a more independent pilgrim who's happy to kind of bring their own lunch and not worry about stopping for coffee during the day, which I like to do a lot of. So I've done myself the Portuguese way from Tui to Santiago and loved it. Thought it was a wonderful experience. Highly recommend it. So yes, a little bit more on these last 100-kilometer routes. You need just about a week to do them if you are walking about 20 to 25 kilometers or 12 to 15 miles per day. So you can do that in 5 to 6 walking days. So I would allow that kind of 7 nights and definitely an extra day or two in Santiago. So maybe 9 nights in total for this trip. And then the French way and the Portuguese way, we also do offer more short days that you can do in kind of 10 to 15 kilometers, about 6 to 8 miles a day, that kind of thing. So if shorter is what you're looking for, there is a route for you to do that. And this makes it really easy as well because you can fly in and out of Santiago Airport. It's a great hub. You're only about an hour and a half drive, or in some cases, a quick train ride out to your starting point, and then you'd walk back into Santiago. If you're coming from, say, the States or North America, it can be really helpful to fly connecting through, say, Madrid or London and reaching Santiago so you can get a round trip flight that way. So that makes it a bit easier. But if you don't want to reach Santiago at the end of this experience, there are many other routes to explore, and I'll just talk about some of them quickly just to give you an idea of the other routes that are out there, other sections. So the kind of second most popular section to do if you're not reaching Santiago would be the first section of the French Way. That would be beginning in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port and then walking to Pamplona. So this allows you to cross the Pyrenees through that famous Napoleon Pass. It's the most challenging first day. You get a real kind of taste of the Camino on that first day as you walk through the mountains, but it's so worth it. The views are incredible, and you can just feel really proud of yourself that you've done this very hard first day of the Camino. And then you can say, well, lots of other pilgrims will do is they'll pick up where they left off each year. So say finish in Pamplona, come back the following year and keep walking from there. So that way you can complete each section kind of year on year, eventually getting to Santiago. So that's just one idea that people might want to consider. And then similarly, if you are walking from Pamplona beyond, so this section walks through the La Rioja wine region, which is lovely as well. You walk right through vineyards and lovely countryside. So it's just another beautiful route that's pretty accessible for most fitness levels. So if you can kind of get in easily through to Pamplona, to Logroño, or to Burgos, and then out that way as well. So it's another one I would definitely recommend if Santiago isn't on the list for this year. And then finally, Camino Finisterre. So as I mentioned before, this was believed to be the end of the world and where people would pick up their scallop shells. So maybe if you've reached Santiago before, you might want to come for the whole year, begin in Santiago, and then walk out to the coast. And you can get a certificate for having reached Finisterre as well. So you might want to kind of add that to your collection. And it's just an absolutely beautiful finishing point at the coast there. And then if you've got lots of time, you could walk a full route, say the Camino Frances, where you're going to meet the most people and just kind of get a real taste or just like generally the full experience of the Camino. So if you were, say, walking the full French way, this would take you about 34 walking days if you're walking that kind of average 12 to 15 miles per day. And then I would definitely include some rest days throughout just so you can maybe take a day to see some of the big cities you'd be passing through and just to give your feet a break, not have to get up every morning. So that would be another big adventure that you could take on for 2021 and the Holy Year. But if you were looking for more of a challenge, there's the Camino del Norte, which is another fabulous route that walks all the way north in Spain and kind of hugs the coast to start out of San Sebastian through the Basque Country. So you get these just beautiful hilltop bluffs that overlook the sea. You can kind of go swimming on some of these days. Coming out of Bilbao as well, you get lovely coastline. So that's a great one. There's delicious cider that will be local to this region. So this is a good one as well if you are looking for more of a challenge and something that's quieter. Because it's going to be a holy year and the Camino Frances is going to be just very, very busy. If you do want much more solitude, this is one I'd recommend. And it allows, so once you reach Oviedo, from there you connect down to the Camino Primitivo, this one here, and on to Lugo and then to Santiago. So it's a longer journey if you're beginning way up north in San Sebastian, but you could start in Oviedo and walk from there to Lugo and on to the city. That particular section from Oviedo to Lugo is great if you are looking for a super challenge. This is some rugged countryside and very rural villages that you'll be passing through. So you get some serious elevation gain to start and some long days, and it makes that kind of finish in Santiago for the whole year all that more rewarding for you, that you've really earned it. Yes, so if you are looking for, just kind of going back to our initial questions for ourselves, whether we're looking for a social or a solitary experience, so social, as I've been saying, you definitely want to look at the Camino Frances or say the Camino Portuguese or one of our guided tours. You're going to meet lots of people on these routes and have a very social experience. Or more solitary, the Camino Inglés is a great one, or the Via de la Plata is another kind of little hidden gem that's still pretty infrequently walked despite being a very beautiful route beginning in Orense, which is excellent because of its thermal baths. So you can get a little break, a little treat when you arrive and then finish in Santiago. It's kind of win-win on both ends. Or if you're a cyclist, you can cycle most of the Camino routes, particularly the Via de la Plata, is excellent for cycling because prior to Orense, it's relatively flat and mostly paved. So it's a great one for cyclists. Only about 6% of pilgrims right now are cycling the route, so it's still kind of growing in popularity. Most people are still walking, but it's definitely something, if you are a cyclist, that you can do. And we can rent bikes as well. You can rent them through us if you didn't want to kind of have to do the hassle of bringing a bike all the way over to Spain. Yes, and so here's our slide on cycling the Portuguese coastal way. This is excellent if maybe you are a cyclist at home, but not kind of a mountain biker. This one is that perfect happy medium. You're following the coastal way, so you get 5 days of cycling about 50 to 60 kilometers per day. And because you're following the coast, you're pretty much at sea level before you turn inland and go through the Albarino wine region, which has a few more hills, but is just very approachable, very gentle, and really easy to follow and navigate. So that's an excellent one for kind of if you're just getting into cycling the Camino. I would definitely recommend beginning there. But in the end, all roads lead to Santiago. So take the time and kind of do some self-reflection, maybe go out on a training walk yourself one of these weekends or one of these days, and see what it is, how you like to walk, what your walking style is. If you're very chatty, it can be helpful if you want to kind of find someone to come with you, or if you're like me and I like to kind of walk on my own, it's nice to know who your walking partner is. So I would definitely recommend taking some time and thinking about what kind of a walker that you are, and going out for training walks and just getting excited and enjoying the journey. So definitely you can contact us to start planning your Camino your way. All of us here are so happy to talk, and after these kind of several months of uncertainty and everything that's happened in the world, I know each of our consultants here are excited to talk about planning again. So we'd be happy to answer any of your questions and helping you get out there for the year of all years, the Holy Year. And so so we'll send you your training plan and packing list from us as having joined our webinar today. So that will be sent to you by email. It can be very helpful just to kind of know where to begin when you're out walking. And then as well, for joining our webinar today, you'll get a €50 travel voucher that can be used for any of our trips. So that will be emailed to you. We hope that you'll contact us and you can ask any questions and we'll help you plan your trip for the year. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. What I'll do now is I'm just going to open the chat box here and go through any questions that may have been popped into the chat box. So as I said, pop any question in here. I'm happy to help. Think of me as a resource. You can ask anything. And we'll go through. So let's see. Ah, So I have a question here about the scallop shell. Why is it significant to pilgrims? So I've heard one tale that the scallop shell was even used. People would get it when they reached Finisterre as kind of proof that they had done it, that they would then take home with them saying, I've done the Camino de Santiago, I have reached the cathedral, and you can tell because I've got my scallop shell to prove it. But I have heard one tale of pilgrims even using it to use to kind of drink water out of or use it almost like a fork or a spoon. So I'm not sure, don't quote me to a historian on that, but I've heard it. But over the years, it's just kind of become the main symbol of the Camino in particular. So you really will see it all over the world. Um, it's very interesting. You'll kind of spot it in different places. I know here in Ireland, we have St. James's Gate up by the Guinness Brewery, and you'll see scallop shells around there. So it's quite cool to get to see it when you're out traveling and know that you have this connection to the Camino. Yes, and we have a great question here from Sandy about how the Holy Year will cope with social distancing. So a really, really good question. Spain does have hotels and accommodations opening at the moment for pilgrims who are out walking. There are a few. We've seen one of the accommodations we work with most frequently in Sarria is at about 15% capacity right now. So pilgrims are coming back, which is great. But all of the hotels have been putting in place new safety regulations so that everyone can feel really comfortable returning. A lot of them have kind of changed the way that they've handled breakfast in the mornings, so it won't be kind of a big buffet style. It might be brought to your room, say, in a kind of little lunch box, but for breakfast. Um, so the hotels are working with government advice to make it as safe and as comfortable as possible for pilgrims returning. And then thankfully, while you are walking outside, you can kind of maintain your distance from other pilgrims. But I would say getting an early start will probably always be the best advice for those walking the French way, say, that might be a bit busier. You can kind of get a head start. We've got a question here from Dolores as well. Oh yes, offering the Santiago, but we do offer then the full inland route out of Porto as well. So from that route, be walking out of Porto to Fajoses and then through to Tui and on to Santiago. So that's another beautiful one. Both are excellent. So we offer both of those. And then we've got a question here from Conrad. Will Americans be able to walk the Camino in 2020? Hopefully. I know that the restrictions on travel at the moment are being reviewed every 2 weeks. As an American myself, I've got my fingers crossed, but definitely for 2021, it should be going well for next year. So we're hopeful on that respect. Let's see. I've got a question here from Barbara on the internal route to the coastal, or for the Portuguese way, or the coastal route, which is most popular and why? A really good question. So for the kind of Camino purists that are there, they may choose the inland route just because it's kind of the one that's been followed throughout history more frequently. So the coastal route has kind of really only become popular in the last few years that they've really, Portugal's done a great job, and Spain, of making sure the route is well marked, and it walks through the most lovely little medieval coastal towns. So it's become a nice detour for people who are looking to get a bit of coastline. And so your evenings that way are a bit buzzier. You finish in these lovely coastal towns with great seafood, great restaurants, a little bit more touristy vibe in the evenings, and then relatively quiet still kind of on your walking day because it's still kind of growing in popularity. So it's that kind of nice mix of maybe quieter walking with a bit more liveliness in the evening. Whereas the Portuguese Inland Way remains that kind of more historic experience. You will definitely see a lot more kind of just history of the Camino along this route, more churches and kind of artifacts of the Camino while you're walking. So that's a quieter route as well. And the terrain will be a bit different. The coastal way is going to follow boardwalks and promenades to start, whereas the inland route will mainly be more woodland paths and kind of small residential roads weaving through a little kind of quiet neighborhood. So it's a really nice contrast. Oh yes, and we've got a question here from Sergey. So we'll be absolutely sharing this full presentation to everyone at the end of the webinar, so you'll be able to go back and review it. And I've got some helpful slides there on kind of easier to harder last 100 kilometer routes. So definitely we'll be sharing this PowerPoint presentation to you along with our training plan and packing list and your €50 voucher. So very exciting. And then let's see here. We've got a question now from Nicholas. How do we get to Oviedo from the airport to start the Primitivo? So there is the Asturias airport in Oviedo, just outside the city, that you can fly into. And then we can actually arrange an airport transfer for you, or you can get a taxi from the airport to the start of your first hotel, and then just start walking from there. So that airport is a slightly smaller airport in the sense that I don't think you can fly internationally into it, say if you were flying from North America, but you can connect through Madrid. So you can kind of think of Madrid as a really good hub, or London as well, or even Dublin, and then from there connect to the airport you'll need to start your Camino from. And as I said, we can organize airport transfers from any of these airports, so definitely let us know if you'd like to add that to your itinerary. Yes, and we've got a comment from Sandy here that the cathedral will definitely be extremely crowded. Already Santiago is, as if you've been before, not the biggest of cities, so it's going to be really, really buzzy and very busy. So I would definitely recommend allowing some extra time there so that maybe you can, if you arrive in the afternoon, don't have the kind of pressure of wanting to get your certificate that afternoon before flying home the next day. We've got a great comment here from Janet, who's used us before to walk from Saint Jean to Logroño. That's great to hear that you had a great time with us, Janet. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming back. Great. And another good question here from Emma. So if you book now for next year, is that refundable if there are still coronavirus issues? Really good question. So for next year, all of our bookings are going to benefit from a no change fee policy. So if for any reason you had to postpone your trip, you can absolutely do so without any extra charge. So while our 30% deposit is non-refundable, it can be issued back to you in the form of a travel credit voucher, so that even if you, say, booked for next year, placed your deposit, had everything confirmed, but weren't able to travel, we'll just, there's no change fee for that. We'll return that to you in the form of a travel credit voucher that you can apply towards rebooking a new trip. So while the deposit isn't refundable, there's no change fee for changing your dates, regardless of whether it's COVID or something else comes up. We can do that for you with up to 30 days notice before your start date. So that policy is on our website now as well if you want to look at the details of it. But essentially we'll do the best that we can in kind of making sure it's flexible for you and that you can walk when you're comfortable and when you're able. So yes. Let's see. Oh, and sorry, Dolores here is saying that her she didn't hear the response for the Camino Portuguese. So in brief, we do the inland way from Porto through Tui into Santiago, and then the coastal way from Porto through to Oya along the coast in Spain, and then into Santiago. Oh, and I've got someone here who's up past midnight who joined us, so thank you for staying up so late to be with us. That's wonderful. I've done that before for webinars, so I appreciate it. Let's see. Yes, and so I've got a question here from Michael about traveling the full Frances to end in Santiago around the 25th of July. So yes, it's going to be very, very busy on the 25th of July, as that is like the holiest days of the Holy Year. So I would, if you're looking to go in July or really anytime next year, to book as far in advance as possible, just so that we can secure your accommodation right away. What we do when your deposit is placed is we immediately begin securing all your accommodations. So within usually about a week to week and a half, you have full confirmation of all your hotels. So whenever you've booked, you're getting in early, that's always good. And the 25th of July, yes, we'll have many different kind of festivities. There's usually fireworks on the day. So yeah, it'd be very exciting. And then where to fly in to begin. Oh yes, so if you're looking to begin the French way at the very beginning in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. Biarritz is the closest airport. That's about 4 kilometers away from the Bayonne train station. So what most people would do is fly into Biarritz and then take a taxi to the train station there and then take the train in. So that can be helpful for you. Or if you're coming in, say, from Paris, you can take the train from Paris to Bayonne and on to Saint-Jean. Yes, we have a question here from Jeanette about doing the Camino in April or May 2021. So that's a great time of year to be on the Camino because it is kind of earlier in the season, but the weather is good, kind of at the end of the spring rainy shower season, but before it gets into the heat of summer. May, we actually see, so May and September are the most popular months of the year for the Camino for that reason, because the weather can be so good. So if you're looking to walk in those months, as I said, definitely book as far in advance as possible. And then those kind of bookend months, so for April and October or August even, and June can be a little bit better in terms of availability because it's like kind of the bookend. So you may have a slightly higher chance of rain or it's a little bit hotter, but it's only say 1 or 2 degrees difference and can make a bit of difference when you're coming in to these accommodations and they're not as fully booked. So that's always good. Oh, great. Another great comment here from Susan. Thank you so much. I'm glad you had a fabulous experience. That's wonderful to hear. Great. Oh, and from Barbara as well. Thank you. I appreciate it. Excellent. Oh, and we've got a good question here as well about daily budget. So that's a great question. What I would say, if you are traveling with us, since your accommodation is pre-booked, you'll have breakfast included as well. So typically, I would say between 20 to 30 euro per day is a really comfortable budget, like very, very comfortable to have with you or kind of plan for. So lunches are pretty inexpensive. You can get a big sandwich or some tortilla or kind of little tapas from the sandwich, maybe 5 euro to 7 euro for lunch. And then for dinner, there's going to be pilgrim menus. So for about 12 to 15 euro, you get 3 kind of small courses. So a small appetizer, your choice of main dish, and then a small dessert. So it's like the menu del dia or the pilgrim's menu. And it's just like, it's very easy. So you really don't need to budget too much if you already have your accommodation booked. But we can include evening meals for you at your hotel as well. If you just kind of are traveling with a group or would just prefer to know that you've arrived, you can have dinner and you're done. So we can include them for you. And then I would say maybe you only need a few euro for lunch. Typically, I would say you've got a question here from William and Maggie. Is it a cash or card economy? And I would say for lunch while you're walking, it's better to carry a little bit of cash just so you can stop at kind of the local canteens. Or I know when I've walked, there have been people even from the backyards of their homes who are selling lemonade to have the cash for those things. But then in the evenings, you can have card for dinner. Most places will take card in the evenings. Let's see. And if you want to walk in 2021, when should you book? Yes, so that's from Conrad here. So 2021, because it is going to be such a popular year, as far in advance as possible, we can secure your accommodations right away. It will just help in terms of allowing us to secure kind of our first choice accommodations for you. And because you will be walking through some small towns, regardless of route that you're on, they're always going to be a bit small. So it helps because then accommodation can fill up quite quickly. So best to get in there early for a Holy Year. Let's see, and I've got a question from Bob here about the drop-off in crowds in October after the Holy Sunday. So yes, towards the end of the season, the general Camino season is from, say, mid-March all the way through to the end of November. So the end seasons are going to be a bit better just in terms of availability, but the weather might be slightly rainier, slightly colder, but nothing that would kind of be too terrible that you could certainly still walk in. After November, the accommodations will start to close for the year. The French way, because it is just such a frequently walked route, is the one route you really could continue to walk into, say, we've had people walk it December into January and February, but it won't be as comfortable. There won't really be other pilgrims around. Many accommodations will be closed, so it might mean for longer walking days or even a transfer. So off season, it's a little bit trickier, but doable. So if you can, I would say that kind of mid-March through to the end of November window is the best time to be out there. Let's see. And so, yes, we have got a question here. Okay. About if you need a break for a couple days, will accommodations be available to change and schedule um, while you're walking? So, if you're walking with us, what we do is we plan your itinerary in advance and allow for rest days and everything like that beforehand. So while you're walking, if say you are like, I'm exhausted, I just need a day off, I can't do this anymore, that's perfectly okay. And what I would say then to do is just to go down to your front desk in the morning and arrange for a taxi, just to hop in the taxi and head to the next hotel. And you can take the day off and kind of hang that way, or even if maybe you've hopefully not sprained an ankle or something like that, you can do that for a day or two if you need be. We can't while you're walking change your hotels in that sense, kind of allow you to stay in one place for longer than you'd planned originally. So while that might look like less flexibility in your schedule, it allows for more flexibility in your walking day. So you know you can really take your time. There's no hurry. Your room is waiting for you. There isn't that kind of stress about needing to get there by 3 o'clock, or else it'll be booked out and you're gone to the next town. So you get more flexibility in your day as opposed to overall, if that makes sense. Let's see. Is it easy to find water to refill along the way? So yes, it definitely is. There will be water fountains throughout most walking days on most routes. On the less kind of frequently walked, less or more quiet routes, you might have fewer of them, but our walking notes that we'll send you are very detailed, so you'll be able to see on your maps where the water fountains are while you're walking. So that's really helpful. You can kind of plan in advance. Um, but on most routes as well, unless you're walking very remote ones, such as the Camino Primitivo or the Camino Inglés, you will probably pass like a little place to get coffee and water and things like that. So you'll have the kind of that option as well as water fountains while you're walking. Oh yes, we've got a comment here from Janet who had the three-course pilgrim meals in the hotels in the evenings, found them to be amazing. That's great, and included a bottle of wine. That's one of my favorite parts about the Camino is the wine at the end of the day, particularly if you're walking through areas like the La Rioja wine region. You just know that you get to sample all these excellent varieties. Let's see. Another question here from Bob about booking in advance. Yes, a really good question. So if you're coming from the US, you're having trouble getting flights confirmed. So what I would say to you is if you know you're going to be traveling on specific days, then you could certainly kind of book your trip and know you're going to be then booking your flights around those dates. So if you're like, my week off is from May 24th through to May 30th, I'll be getting my flights around those dates regardless, then that's perfect and we can kind of get going on your accommodations right away. If the alternative is that if you are going to have some flexibility in your dates and say might want to play around with the flights a little bit and their dates might change by 1 or 2 days, just to wait and see what the flight schedule looks like so you don't have to worry about kind of changing it down the line. We're hoping that flight schedules will be more available. Thankfully, it's still very early right now. I would say that a good kind of window to have things kind of in motion or finalized by is the end of this year at the latest if you're looking to do one of the very popular months or very popular dates. But we have done trips in advance, like 2 weeks in advance, so it's definitely something that we can work with as well. Uh, but yes, and you can absolutely get in contact with us and we can kind of chat with you individually about your flight schedule and your dates, and we can find a good solution for you. Yes, and a question from Michael about restroom facilities on the trail. This is my favorite question. It's a really good one. So if you're walking our populated route, so say the last 100 kilometers of the French Way from Sarria to Santiago, on that route, you're going to reach like a cafe or a little restaurant or somewhere that you can go to the bathroom every 5 kilometers or so every 1 hour of walking. As you kind of go out then in popularity or frequently walked routes, it might get a little bit more infrequent, but there will be cafes and restaurants and things marked on your maps. You can kind of plan your day each morning saying, okay, this is where I'm going to stop for lunch, or this is where I know there'll be a bathroom or something along the way. The more remote routes, I would just say to kind of do as the Boy Scouts do, you just leave no trace. There's really great resources online about how to do that. So it's really helpful and really important that the Camino stays just that we all take care of it and make sure that it's being looked after. So yes, if that helps answer your question. um, I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do it, but I'm hoping that they'll be able to have a system in place that people can feel comfortable traveling. I know in Spain right now, masks are mandatory at the moment, and that's been able to kind of isolate different kind of that if they have had case outbreaks, they've been able to isolate different communities and things. So hopefully the Camino will have the cathedral will have a system in place then. Oh yes, and the question from Bob here was on the cathedral repairs being done soon. So yes, the cathedral, if you've visited in the past year or so, has been having renovations done. So they've completely finished the outside now. This year, 2020, was one of the first years where you're able to view the front of the cathedral without any scaffolding in place. So that was very exciting. And they had then moved on to the inside of the cathedral. So people weren't able to attend Pilgrim's Mass at the moment, but that was all to be done in time for Holy Year. So all going well. They should be fully open and ready for the December 31st kind of start of the Holy Year. And then you'll be able to enter and do Pilgrim's Mass inside. And as we kind of get more information from the cathedral, from the Pilgrim Society, and the Spanish government, we'll be updating our website on social distancing. And we've got some really great resources up at the moment on how the hotels we work with are implementing social distancing. So if you want to send us an email, you can, yes, contact us. We can send you that to you so you can read a bit about it. So we'll definitely be updating our website and everything with more to come. Yes, I think that looks like that's the end of the questions for the moment. So if anyone has any other, let's see here. Got a question from Michael. Do you recommend being in Santiago on July 25th? A good question. It's going to be very exciting if you are there. It's also probably going to be a bit overwhelming. It's going to be very, very busy. So if that's not going to be your scene, then I would say you don't need to be there on July 25th. You can go on any day in 2021, and it'll be very special for you. And it's always emotional. I know that when I get into the big square in front of the cathedral, I always get teary. You see everyone kind of reaching the cathedral, and they get emotional, and it's my favorite thing. I love it. So you don't need to be there for a particular day. Every day I think is special, and you can make it special. So I would visit on July 25th if it's really important to you specifically, and you want to be there for the festivities and the fireworks. And maybe you've had kind of the past couple months have been much more on the isolation side for you, and really want that contact. It'll be very, very exciting. So I would say that it'll be really, really fun. Oh, great. I'm so glad that you all enjoyed the webinar. That's so helpful, or it's so helpful to know that it's helpful for you. So I'm really glad. It's really fun for me to get to engage with all of you and hear your questions. This is what I do like for fun. The Camino is my favorite thing. I'm passionate about it. We all are here. So we love getting to talk to you about it. Let's see if we have any other last minute questions here. Oh yes, here we've got one on if you opt for shorter walking days, is there a lot to explore around the towns and villages along the route? A good question. So it depends on the route, but most of the time if you're doing shorter walking days and you are finishing in smaller towns, there isn't going to be a whole lot to do. These are very, very small areas, so I would say bring a book, relax with a glass of wine, or just kind of put your feet up. There won't be too much. There's one little town, there's like a couple, like I know when I was in Padron myself, there's like a poet's house that you can visit. So there may be a few little things, but I would plan on having the book and just kind of having it be a relaxing afternoon. So if that's kind of the goal for why you wanted to do shorter days, I would say you wouldn't need to. I would do the longer distances, that you'll get more out of your day that way, if that's helpful. So, but if you're looking to just kind of, if the shorter distances are more comfortable, then that's perfect. You can really take your time. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the presentation. This is wonderful. And I see here Kathy just popped in that she missed the beginning of the webinar. What you can do is we'll actually be sending you this full presentation so you can connect back into the beginning, but definitely you can contact us. We're always happy to answer any questions. As I've said, it's been great to talk about planning again and talk about the routes. So it's very fun for us. training plan and your packing list and your 50 euro voucher. So that's great. And you can contact us either replying to that email or info@followthecamino.com, or all of our phone numbers are up on this slide here. And